Hey everybody, welcome to our third installment of the Nameless podcast. I guess we still haven't come up with a name, so we're open to suggestions in the chat. But here with Pac-Man from Pac-Man Media, and my name is Michael from Republic Labs. We come live every Wednesday, depending on what time of the world you're in. It changes times, but today we're really privileged to welcome a couple of extra guests. Before I throw to the guests, I'll say hello to you, Pac-Man. How you going, brother?
Hi, good. You just call me Pacman is fine, and yeah, Pacman Media, and also co-founder of Kylix Finance. Happy to be here. Happy to have Aziz. He's my very good friend from Stella Swap. So looking forward to our discussion.
Awesome. Well, we also have Gianluigi here from Kylix Finance as well. We're going live out on several different accounts. I think on the Kylix Finance page, I think also on the Mandala page, Republic Labs and Pac-Man Media, and we may also be live on Stella Swap shortly as well. So, yeah, welcome, guys. How are you?
Thanks a lot for having me here. Pretty fine, thank you. Here in New York, it's pretty early in the morning, but yeah, everything is great.
Well, and Aziz, you're going well too, brother?
Yep, all good, man. Excited for this.
Awesome. Well, I think what we might do, Seth, is we might allow the guys to introduce themselves and introduce their projects. What do you think?
Yeah. I think Gianluigi should start with why he's in New York, and because it's quite a big achievement for Kylix, so I think community should know why Gianluigi's in New York.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm very excited to be here in New York because Kylix has been accepted by an accelerator, a local accelerator here in New York called the ERA. And it's an interesting program that it's very vertical on the American market. So it's an accelerator that helps some Web3 project, actually all related to Polkadot, to enter the American market. We are here as a Kylix. We will stay here until the end of May. And actually, interesting part is that we are together with the other two Polkadot projects. One is Zeitgeist, and the other one is Epilon. So yeah, actually, it's really exciting time here. And Kylix, I'm going to give a very brief introduction about the project. It's a lending platform, but a cross-chain. It's a platform that provides cross-chain lending markets and connect lenders and borrowers across the different blockchains without the need for traditional bridges. It's built on Substrate. It's built on Polkadot and connected to Polkadot because we are actually a parachain. And yeah, actually the nice, unique selling proposition that we are bringing is the possibility to use native cross-chain assets, including actually Bitcoin. So yeah, this is the project, and I'm Gianluigi, the co-founder of the project, together with Bachman. The project started at PBA, Polkadot Blockchain Academy, in last year in January. We were actually in Hong Kong. And yeah, my background quickly is mostly traditional finance, banking, and of course, DeFi. I've always been very passionate about lending products, and for me it was pretty natural to create a project that was vertical on lending in DeFi. Also, I think there is a really huge opportunity because lending is one of the safest and more interesting form of yield, probably the most, definitely the safest financial product that is offered on the crypto market. And thanks to the over-collateralized fashion. And it gets a lot of traction. There is a huge need for this kind of service because people want to increase the capital efficiency of their tokens in a safer way. No one likes to have their tokens idle in their wallets. So yeah, we found a market need, and we saw that actually it's a great opportunity to bring a cross-chain project dedicated on lending. That's it.
I also before we move on, the reason Gianluigi looks the way he does because I had to wake him up in the morning. It's US morning, and I got the timing wrong. So that's
it's your fault, Pacman. It's your fault.
It's my fault. He looks a bit sleepy because I got the timing wrong. If anybody's in the UK, they would know the timing was changed recently, so there was a little confusion.
It's okay.
Let's throw it to Aziz, man. You're an OG in the Polkadot space. Tell us about your project and how you got going and what you do.
All right. Hey guys, thanks for having me. My name is Aziz. I'm one of the co-founders of StellaSwap. So basically, for just a quick introduction, we were actually as one of the first guys that built a centralized exchange in the Middle East. Based out of Dubai, Abu Dhabi. One of those that had a license as well, and we did that, for 3 years before we thought, centralized exchange is good, but we're spending 90% of our time liaising with regulators, government, stakeholders, compliance. So we're like, and then 10% of the time building, right? So we're like, you know what? We just want to build stuff, and borderlessly, right? Not only within one jurisdiction. So we decided to let's jump into DeFi. And coincidentally, at the point of time, the first few parachain auctions started to go live, Akela, Moonbeam, and we reached out to the Moonbeam team and said, we want to build on Moonbeam. And we started up as a DEX on Moonbeam and became the top DEX on Moonbeam. And thanks to the help of the whole community, right? And then we sort of like ventured deeper into the Polkadot ecosystem, and now we're one of the leading DEXs on Polkadot, with the only DEX with a cumulative volume over $2 billion. And we're fortunately one of those projects that had 1 million in DOT grants as liquidity incentives to spearhead growth within the ecosystem. So in short, StellaSwap is right now, as we're a V4 DEX. So previously we were a hybrid AMM, which means that we had a V2, V3, and stable AMM. But now we've launched V4, which is the latest iteration of AMMs in DeFi, which is the most efficient structure and the most effective in terms of concentrated liquidity with a lot of optimizations. V4 is like Uniswap hooks, right? So we've launched that last month, and right now we're basically the only V4 DEX on Polkadot. And beyond that, as a DEX on Polkadot, we also have supplementary products and services that sort of like enhances the DeFi journey. So like we have our own LST, which is ST dot stake dot, as well as we have the easiest way for you to transfer your funds to Polkadot via any EVM wallet, which is our cross-chain swaps. You can transfer funds anywhere across DeFi with sub 30 seconds finality and getting native assets. So that's very, very cool. And we're also transiting in the next week or two to VE, which is Vote Escrow Stellar, very similar to Aerodrome and Velodrome's space, which would be part of the transition towards full governance, right? So VE Stellar is going to launch very soon, which is going to decentralize the way emissions work, so voting for emissions. And that is going to start the path towards full decentralization of StellaSwap, right? So we are very excited to continue iterating, continue building, continue launching with Moonbeam, with Polkadot, with a lot of partners across the ecosystem like Mandela, like Kylix, to sort of spearhead greater liquidity across the ecosystem and growth.
I just want to add as well, I'm a big fan of StellaSwap. I know Aziz, he's a good friend as well. So I really like the whole liquidity pools and everything StellaSwap's doing. I do believe with the statement that it's one of the top DEXs out there. There's no doubts about that. I want to ask quickly, so we always talk about, US and UK and Europe, and also we talk about Asia. You mentioned like the first DEX in Middle East. I want to kind of, because I don't think we talk about it enough. What's it like in Middle East and like, the future of like the decentralized finance? I know there's a lot of money, but like, how does that money come on chain?
Got it. So we were one of those guys that first started the centralized exchange game in the Middle East, servicing the GCC, the Gulf countries, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And we obviously went through the traditional hoops of getting licensing, regulatory sandboxing. So across the GCC, especially when you look at, for example, spearheaded by Dubai or UAE, right, you can see that the regulatory, as in framework, right, and policy making has been very, very receptive, right? Because obviously it's a new technology. Even the UAE has announced the focus towards smart cities, leveraging on DLTs or blockchain, right? So their approach has been very, very positive. And one thing good, very similar to that of Singapore, for example, right, is they take a very phased approach towards policy making and framework setting, whereby you start off with consultation with the industry makers, and then you start off with a sandbox approach, sandbox regulation, and a limited pool of licensing, and then you sort of like scale from there, right? So it makes a lot of sense because it's a very new technology, and the approach is very, very as in receptive, and you can see that there's a lot of plans going forward to further attract. I'm pretty sure you guys have landed in Dubai. You can see that there's a lot of crypto bros there. There's a lot of projects that are based there, because obviously a core part of that beyond tax-free is that it's a very open and a positive sort of like climate for crypto projects to innovate on. Right, so very, very positive, as well as Saudi Arabia is also really, really opening up as part of the country opening up, but focusing on this new technology to attract talents, to attract new capital and innovations for their retail consumers.
I think I agree. I've been to Dubai many times, and it's just always like especially when you go to attend a crypto conference, it feels like one of the most welcoming place to be. In terms of contacts, in terms of like meeting other people, other teams, and everybody's just so passionate about it. So I mean, we need another space just to talk about Dubai, but we'll go back to decentralized finance. But yeah, we're going to be in Token 2049 if anybody's listening. So Kylix Finance will be there, Stellar Swap, Aziz will be there, Michael will be there as well. So if anybody wants to meet the people, we'll give us a shout, and we'll happy to meet up. We'll be at Token 2049.
Indeed.
Oh yeah, Gianluigi.
Well, I've got a question for everybody. So obviously, like, we've got a few projects represented here. So obviously, Stellar Swap's probably the most mature. Not probably, it is the most mature. Mandala Chain and Kylix Finance are two which are about to launch, about to TGE sometime in the coming period of time. We won't put too much alpha there, Gianluigi, on your behalf. But we've all been around in the space for quite some time. Like, what are your thoughts on like DeFi itself, where it's come, like where it is right now, and what do you think is the next phase, I guess, for DeFi to be able to take it to the next level? Maybe we start with Gianluigi.
Yeah, actually, no, it's a very interesting question, and actually, yeah, pretty broad. I would say that I generally consider DeFi one of the most important vertical of Web3. In the same way, finance and economy, traditional finance and economy, are the pillars of human society. If you consider any financial product in traditional finance, that like a loan, an insurance, or an investment, are all instruments that definitely can change the life of a person if you use it, in a correct way. And it was just natural that someone built a reflection of those financial instruments into Web3, into the crypto space. So, in my opinion, DeFi, regardless of the environment, the ecosystem we're talking about, it can be Polkadot or anything else. DeFi, it's, in my opinion, the most important vertical in Web3. And, of course, Kylix is a lending platform. Stellar Swap, it's a DEX, a decentralized exchange. And we're both offering products that are, let's say, primitives. Primitives for the users to use the tokens. Probably the first use case, And in my opinion, DeFi will always drive the traction of the user engagement for ecosystem. So more the DeFi environment is rich, more people will join a specific environment. And the less rich, instead of less offer there is in an ecosystem, less people get traction, because it's what it drives. And I think any ecosystem that has a strong DeFi backbone is going to thrive in the future.
Yeah.
Super interesting. I guess same question to you as is, like, you've seen probably like the full spectrum of like early blockchain users, and then especially this cycle has been a little bit differently. Like, what sort of trends are you seeing over at StellarSwap, and where's the next phase of DeFi?
So, I mean, the DeFi sort of like usage as well as coverage is highly impacted by the crypto prices. That's an honest thing, right? And you can see that generally crypto prices across for the past 3 years have been very stagnating, and therefore you can see an obvious sort of like stagnation across the industry in terms of DeFi utilization, right? And then it comes to the question of how can we proliferate the usage of DeFi? Right now, focus on what matters, which is the retail audience, right? Because we all know right here in this table, we all know those that you guys are watching, probably you guys have already done DeFi, so you guys the philosophy, the underlying philosophy, or the sort of a mindset of, okay, DeFi is an alternative system which it makes sense, which is borderless, transparent, which has all this good stuff, right? But obviously there is limitations with regards to coverage, right? And when you can see, for example, beyond obvious trends like AI, in the intersection of AI, blockchain, you can see, okay, the way to onboard users right now, previously it's all about liquidity incentives. Ecosystems will flush the protocols with liquidity incentives to get people in, right? But now that playbook is also stagnating because of crypto prices being stagnating, right? So right now, I think the critical question, and I'm seeing the trend, okay, what are the markers of user acquisition from the retail end, which will flow into the DeFi end? And you can see, like, for example, Base is doing this very well, where the markers of entrance, the entrance for normal people to come into DeFi and use DeFi and experience DeFi is via the traditional route, the traditional avenue of crypto sort of infra, which is centralized exchanges. Right, so when you tie in centralized exchange, because let's face it, the majority of people that hold crypto hold it in centralized exchanges, right? A vast majority, and therefore, if you have that link towards all these avenues like centralized exchange onboarding into DeFi, then you can see a direct translation of users and activity across DeFi, right? And BNB is also one, with Binance, right? So those are the kind of things which makes a lot of sense to really push forward usage, because we can't depend on the traditional way of ecosystem incentives, traditional ad spend on Twitters or videos to pull in people, but rather to tie in really with the avenues where people start inquiring, start buying, start interacting with crypto, which right now is like centralized exchanges. So having that link is very important.
I think I want to add from a different perspective. So my background is not technical as Gianluigi or Aziz, for example. I'm more of my background is business development and marketing and community. So from a user perspective, if, for example, you have to go get a bank loan, for instance, you have to go through so many credit checks, and it's a nightmare. You don't just go and get a bank loan within the same day. You have to do loads of things, application process and that. With crypto, a lot of people that might not be eligible for a loan but still own crypto can just literally go and lend their Bitcoin or whatever for a week, for a day, and basically just earn passive income on same the other way around. If you hit hard times and you have crypto but you don't have really good credit history, you can go into a DeFi protocol. You can literally use your crypto as collateral and borrow and then pay back. I mean, you don't need anybody to trust you to give you crypto or give you loan. Basically, this is exactly why I'm a big fan of DeFi overall. And then you have Stellar Swap, like a DEX, where you can literally just go swap any crypto for whatever reason you want, and you don't have to go through centralized exchanges, KYC, and all that kind of nightmare. So DeFi for me is like amazing. And then I think a lot of people talk about not enough users, not enough liquidity, but I think there should be more DeFi protocols. I don't think there is a competition between like one project and another. I think if there's more choices available, more kind of options available for the users, then that's probably better for the industry rather than seeing as a competition. For example, one of the projects that I work with is like Polkadex. I think Aziz, we had a meeting with them as well. So they're making an like order book style Dex exchange, but they're focusing on like educating the user from scratch. It's like basically educating people from literally the basics of it, like what does it mean to have a Dex, or what does it mean to have like a decentralized finance or loan, or how can you loan, I mean, for people like you and me, we understand it really, really well. When you say like, use your crypto as a collateral, you don't need the description, we know what it means. But like for somebody new, doesn't really mean. And so education is also very, very important. So I think we're going in the right direction, but maybe another few months, few years we'll get there when we're completely decentralized and banks are not as necessary as they are now.
Actually, I would like actually to add something here, because you touch a really important point that is about regulations. And traditional finance is literally suffocated by regulations, but not only from a user perspective, but also for, let's call them the builders, someone that wants to offer a new financial product on the market. Literally, especially in Europe, they need to pass through a huge sequence of diligence from the bank authority before they allow to offer a new service. And after then, they're not even allowed. So they have to work for literally years to create a documentation, to try to explain to the bank authority, look, this is what I want to do, a new creditworthiness model. And at the end, they can be turned down. So this is mostly because traditional finance is a market that is overly saturated, especially in a country like Europe, and there's not really space to enter with the new products. And the bank infrastructure where we are living actually is stuck in the technologically wise in the 70s. So we have banks that they're still working on XML files, and they share huge payloads in a batch processing fashion. And I had a friend who tried actually to get a mortgage from a bank, and this person had 4 times the value of the mortgage in stocks, and the bank didn't allow him to get a mortgage because the part that was related to the mortgage decision was not communicating with the one with the investment. So it's very, very old technology, and we are living in a traditional finance that the fundamentals are very old, and DeFi is definitely it's much more closer to the needs of the new generation.
Someone I know recently, their mortgage got refused because he was buying lottery tickets too much, and they were like, well, you have a gambling habit, we don't think you will be able to afford your monthly payments because one day you might end up gambling all of your money. And that was the most stupid reason I've ever heard. But
sorry.
No, banks have crazy software with this now. Like I've got a good friend who jokingly, whenever you go out to dinner with him or do anything with him, he'll send you money, but he'll always put like a funny comment for what it was for, and stuff that was clearly not true, like just stupid stuff for like
18 plus.
yeah, just joking around, like for the special dancers or something, like just joking around stuff. And the bank flagged it all for him and said, no, we can't lend you a mortgage because you're reckless and doing juvenile things with your money. I'll just add to the point that Aziz was making before. So I've actually lived my life on the Bitcoin standard for a couple of years now. So everything I make goes into mostly Bitcoin and a few other select assets. And then I run all of Republic Labs directly off of like loans against Bitcoin. And I've done that for several years through bull and bear cycle. And so it's very possible. And when you eventually feel like you've got a good price, you can pay down the loans against your assets. But generally, I just try and accumulate, and I've done that for several years. And what Mandala Chain is actually trying to implement now is essentially the blending of traditional finance and DeFi. I don't know what we're going to call it, like mid-fi or like a blend-fi, but essentially it's trying to take the elements of DeFi and plugging it into centralized institutions who are actually lending to people. So that's one of the main use cases for Mandala, like an institutional use case where there's a network of, like, I guess, micro lenders, and there'll be elements of DeFi which will get blended into like their service and their product offering. So it's really cool that like Mandala can, start to try and blend that traditional world with blockchain use cases as much as possible.
Aziz, do you think there will ever be technology or anything with StellaSwap where people can just use their funds available in DEX going into stores like a debit card or credit card? Basically, like, you don't even need to have a bank. You can just basically use your funds at a DEX, trade and do whatever you have to do. And when it comes to like paying your bills and something, do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, definitely. As in, we're actually we have a lot of these stocks with merchants, as those sort of like third-party payment processors where they're ready to sort of like furnish or co-brand a card where our users could actually connect their wallet and sort of like use it, Apple Pay, right, in stores. Like Moonwell, they have a card as well where you can use and your Moonwell assets and sort of like use it in the real world. So those are pretty much available as we speak right now. Obviously, it's at the start phase, right? And therefore the fees for usage is a bit on the high side, and that is what we're sort of like trying to see whether it makes sense with the users. But right now it already sort of like a lot of projects are already utilizing that, and we're very interested as well to open up pathways for that usage, because that's going to be very, very easy for the users to leverage on their DeFi assets to use it on the real world.
Yeah, because finance will be completely decentralized in that case then, because you don't need to go, say, for example, from now in StellaSwap, if you need fiat, you'll have to send your currency to a central exchange and, trade it for, euro or pounds or dollars or whatever. So you still kind of need the centralized exchanges. But if something like that happens, then yeah, we don't really need any centralization at all.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, even without centralized exchanges, right, you can use fiat off-ramps. We have Transact with us, so you can literally connect your wallet and just off-ramp to your bank account directly into your bank account. And then it makes life easier, right? Because your assets, you straight away, whatever USDT or USDC, for example, in stablecoins, and you want to put it into your bank account, it's a simple process, with quite limited KYC. There obviously will be KYC, but it's quite limited. And therefore, that makes life easier. So you don't have to set up a centralized exchange, get verified on a centralized exchange, send it to a centralized exchange, and then send it back to another local off-ramp to get it into your bank account. So
we actually have a partnership with Pendulum. Yes, with a similar on Gianluigi. Do you want to just quickly tell them that?
Yes, definitely. Actually, I want to say that I love the definition of Michael when they call it the blendify or blendify. Is definitely fitting. I truly believe. Our vision is that the real value of DeFi is when finally we will be able to mix fully with traditional finance and allow not Web3 people to get the benefit of DeFi. This is an opportunity, and this is our vision. And this is actually what also we want, Calix want to achieve with Mandala. Now we are already studying some proof of concept of, for instance, Pacman, you just mentioned Pendulum, a proof of concept of a fiat lending pool. So user will be able to lend their fiat asset, actually fiat currency, into seamlessly into a lending pool offered by Calix, and the system will take a conversion automatically of doing on-ramping and off-ramping between fiat and crypto. But there are other blends that we can think about, and one, for instance, a proof of concept of this, I'm really working on it now in America, is the possibility to give a loan directly on a card. So the user gives some crypto asset as a collateral, and receive a loan straight on a card. So that can spend his loan immediately in any merchant, like Starbucks. So the opportunity is that DeFi is extremely powerful, but it's limited if it's isolated in the ecosystem just on the blockchain. The real value is when people that belongs to the Web2 society benefits directly without even maybe knowing that they're using crypto. They're able to benefit the yield and the benefits of this financial product into Web3 without even knowing. And this is the direction that we're going to take. And I think there are a lot of opportunities, especially working with Mandala.
Mandala with Indonesia is a different one, because Michael, could you remind us? Because I think last time I was there last year, you cannot pay in any other currency other than the local currency. Is that right?
Yeah, you can only pay for goods and services with the local currency, which is rupiah, like it's written on my shirt, rupiah. But there's a really, really strong sort of like token economy there. And I don't mean like crypto tokens, like points. So there's lots of like different systems where you like load up a loyalty point and then you can pay for things with points. So it's essentially the same thing, except these are like a centralized like database of points. And so you can buy credit in points, and then the merchant will auto convert points into the local currency. And so I do think that this is just a very small regulatory tweak before that's now like crypto assets based on a blockchain would be allowed to be used for that. But obviously there still needs a regulatory change, but people aren't too far away in their basic knowledge to be able to live in a world and live in a society like that. So it's coming. Like I do think the emerging world, like a lot of the developing countries, you got like a lot of Southeast Asia, a lot of the LATAM, like a lot of Eastern Europe, a lot of African and Middle Eastern countries, like the ones who are not, I guess, East Asia, Europe, North America, the ones who don't have to change because they're the sort of incumbent financial system might be a bit slower, but some of the emerging markets will change quicker, and then that'll force competition will drive change. So I do think that, it won't be too long before people are like taking loans out against a fractionalized version of their house. They might have a combination basket of their whole net worth, which is some sort of like fractionalized real estate, Bitcoin, some stable coins, some gold. Yeah, like it'll just be this hybrid asset. Everything will get tokenized, but in a much cooler way than what BlackRock means.
Yeah. I want to ask Teleswap. So like we obviously, like Mandala and Kylix, we're in a building stage. So like we have like different milestones. But since Teleswap is already quite mature, very well established, Aziz, like what are you guys like kind of working on now? Like I want to understand the journey as well. Like once you get to the level where everything is kind of on autopilot, everything's running, you have a community, you have everything. So what happens next? Like, so are you still looking into like build more, like do something else, or are you happy with the project where it is now?
Oh no, we're never always happy with where we are, because if you're not if you're not re-innovating with it, right, you'll die. So we're always on the lookout for how we can sort of like make things easier, simpler, and better for users. That's the core philosophy behind we do what we do. And as a DEX, obviously, with our LST business, with a lot of secondary features, cross-chain swaps, bridging, a lot of that stuff to make things easier. SEX on-ramp. We also have a centralized exchange on-ramp that can connect with your DeFi wallet, right? So, our main aim is to sort of like be at the forefront of DeFi innovation, and hence that's why manifested in the launch of our V4 this year. So Uniswap launched their V4 on somewhere around February, and we launched a week or two after our own V4. Obviously, it's not Uniswap's V4; it is Algebra's V4, which has been our sort of like partner since the start. So that V4 obviously is the pinnacle of EMM. EMM efficiency, and obviously moving to VE Vodas Cross Tower. That's also one thing where it's very important for the sustainability of any DEXs. because a core, when you talk about token economics, a core pillar of sustainability or the continuity of any DEX, right, would be sort of like a total utility for token holders, right? And you can only achieve that in a system like Vote Escrow, where the token holders themselves decide the emissions, not the project, not the core members. And that is obviously the path towards decentralization, which we're heading towards, right? The cool stuff that we're working on is also to further spearhead the avenues of capital inflows towards Polkadot with Moonbeam on the data haven site under the AVS, where it's really, really interesting because Moonbeam's thought leadership is extremely smart. Is very, really, really groundbreaking in the sense that they're really opening up a new market for AVS utilization, and that has been something which is also we're working hand in hand with the Moonbeam ecosystem to spearhead even more coverage growth of not only liquidity but also technology stack of Polkadot across the EVM spectrum. So this year is really, really tight, and what we want to focus on, obviously at the point where we're stable, is to continue innovating on AMM efficiency, because as a DEX, that's our lifeblood, right? How can we make a DEX or AMM much more efficient than yesterday, right? So focusing on that, I think, is the most important part as a DEX, so that we ensure that users have access to ultra low slippage to the best prices possible across DeFi.
We have a couple of questions. Thanks, Aziz, by the way. That was a good answer. If somebody's asking if Michael is Australian, yes, he is. I mean, if the accent doesn't give it away, then I don't know. Gianluigi, there's a question for you. So we announced a partnership with StellaSwap. So people want to know, like, what does this partnership mean? Also, there are some people from Polkadex here as well, because I mentioned that there is a potential partnership. Aziz already had a meeting with Vivek from Polkadex, and Kylix is also considering a partnership there once they're live. But now, Kylix and StellaSwap partnership. Gianluigi, do you want to just give details on what does this partnership mean?
Absolutely. Actually, the partnership with StellaSwap gives us enormous opportunity to create a unique product on the market, a unique selling proposition that we call it the self-repaying loan. So it's a new form of loan where the user provide a collateral, in this case a DOT, and we use this collateral rather than keep it custodial for as a security to repay back the loan in the case of it becomes non-performant. We take this loan and we send it to the liquid staking platform of StellaSwap. In this way, we generate a yield through the inflationary mechanism of staking. And this, let's call it yield profit, we use it to repay back the debt position of the user. This is a long way to essentially explain that we are creating a product, a loan that the user perceive as a loan with negative interest rates. So a loan that rather than growing in a debt in price through the time, is essentially decreasing through the time. And this is only possible with the conjunction of a service, the service that StellaSwap is providing, that is their liquid staking platform.
So how long does this whole process take? If, for example, if I had my dots, locked in Kylix, for instance, and then these dots are sent to StellaSwap, and then an hour later I decided, oh no, I want my dots back. So
the beauty is that it's a liquid staking platform. So the capital is not illiquid; it's a liquid. Therefore, you can decide to take your collateral back. Of course, it depends. The interesting part is that we will provide a simulator that will show how long your loan is gonna, when it's gonna be repaid, based on how much collateral you put or how much loan actually you get. So actually you can simulate it before actually executing the request of a loan.
That's quite good because TeleSwap recently announced. I've seen some posts on Twitter that there is quite decent rewards for staking, especially liquid staking for that. So that's quite good. So like over time, if you get I don't know $1,000 on if it's the right amount, so maybe over a year everything is just paid. You keep the loan.
Yes, exactly. You it's just you ask a loan, you forget because you don't need to repay it back. And
As he's
actually,
gonna borrow $1,000 and forget about it.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty about what Kylix is doing, right? I mean, what DeFi should sort of like. I mean, the premise of DeFi should be, right, is stake and forget, and then you can even think of it as a savings account, especially for example beyond the obvious stake dot, that Ajay Region has talked about is thinking about your salary, whatever, your savings, right? Put it on a stable coin, and then put it in a lending and borrowing platform, or stake it in a stable LP where you're earning like 10%. That beats any sort of like savings interest rate on any bank account earning 0.05% per annum. Right. Obviously, there are sort of like we must be cognizant of like risk, like smart contract risk, all this kind of stuff. But I think the premise as an alternative finance that DeFi provides, if we have more coverage on that, you can see that there are a lot of use cases, because when people talk about crypto, volatile, right? I wouldn't want to touch that, right? But stable coins is the most popular use case in crypto, right? And that they are not volatile, right? So having the sort of like having that messaging across that the utilization of your funds in a very stable way and earning beyond market returns, that's a very compelling use case or argument for crypto.
Yeah, awesome. Michael, what about you? Do you see a potential partnership of Mandala with a DEX protocol like SalaSwap?
For sure. I mean, like ultimately, we want to be able to try and drive just utility to new users, and the Mandala play is all about trying to bring in new users. Like it's a very retail, enterprise, and government use case coming on chain for the first time, and so we want to be able to provide these services to other people. And I mean, last time I checked, like I think Aziz has StellarSwap's got one of the largest amounts of TVL of all of the DEXs inside the whole Polkadot ecosystem. Am I correct? Probably, top three, if not top two.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be top one.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's absolutely like a service and a tested and battle tested service. And so, Mandala is attracting some use cases where people have been engaging with a government service or with an enterprise traditionally, and then we're trying to move that on chain. So it's bringing a whole bunch of people who are already using a service and now making them blockchain users. And so that's where, the tagline of trying to bring in millions of new users comes from, because it's not trying to bring people on chain for the first time. It's taking something that they're already doing on chain. And so once we've got them and they all have a wallet, then really what we want to do is we want to be able to provide them the full blockchain experience. And so something like a DEX, something like a lending and borrowing platform, something like liquid staking, all of these become part of the experience that you realize, hang on a second, all of my assets are a lot more free. I'm not just like put it in a bank and forget. Unless you've got like significant amounts of money, like you're not really paying attention to the interest rate in your bank. Like it's not something that you're really paying interest in. But with tokens, absolutely. Like there's so many different things that you can be doing with your tokens to be able to generate a yield. And so we look forward to those partnerships. I think what first thing we've got to do is launch, and first thing we've got to do is actually start bringing people on chain. But yeah, absolutely, there'll be knocks on the door from us to StellarSwap especially. And I'm cheating because I'm also part of the Kylix team. So, but
it's actually like cross thing. So I have been working with Mandala for a long time, but I'm also co-founder of Kylix. Michael's co-founder of Kylix, but he works with co-founder of Mandala. He's
Mandala.
Yeah, it's the other way around. He's my boss and I'm his boss, But no, I always think about this 100 million users claim, and I actually think a lot about this. So let's say, for example, out of the 278 million population in Indonesia, we talk about bringing 100 million users. Let's be more conservative, and let's say only 10 million users, like only 10% of that come on chain. Out of that 10 million, let's say another be more conservative and say only 10% of that actually become blockchain users, and then they only let's say they only bring like $10 of their crypto fiat into crypto. So that's still $100 million fresh money coming into crypto that's not been in there before. That's or that didn't have any chances of coming into crypto before.
Well, you just talk numbers there. So let's talk numbers. And so, like 100 million users is obviously a very ambitious tagline. And that's what Mandala's gone out with, to say we want to bring on the next 100 million users. Now, the reason where that came from is because one of the primary use cases of Mandala is the .id domain system, which we're bringing on chain. So .id stands for Indonesia. So any single time you see a URL that ends in .id, it doesn't stand for identity, it stands for Indonesia. But companies don't use it for that. They just buy it off of Indonesia and then they use it for identity. At the moment, there's 100 million people in the world who interact with some sort of website that ends in .id. Now, the main company who looks after this on behalf of the Indonesian government is one of the partners of Mandala. And so we're looking to bring on all of those .ids on chain. And so you're right. Let's say we fail and only get 10%. Well, that's 10 million users from one use case.
As well. Yeah.
The failure rate is like absolutely a success. And so, I mean, I watch the Kusumerian's content religiously because we're all building in the Polkadot ecosystem. And I think in the data dump stuff that Crane often does as part of the weekly wrap up, they talk about how many active addresses there are. And it's something like 12,000 active addresses in Polkadot daily.
Yeah.
Like 12,000. I mean, it's not a lot. That's not a lot of people. And so we're talking about use cases that have 100 million users, and we're trying to just take a fraction of them and bring them on chain. So you can see what an absolute failure number looks like. It's still probably more than the whole use case of Polkadot right now. So we're bullish. We're absolutely bullish, and we're not shying away from the opportunity that we've got in front of us. And we're excited for it because this is what we're trying to do.
Talking about Jay and talking about bullish, I want to highlight this. Gautam from Block Deep Labs was talking with Kusumerian yesterday, and he said something that was really good. He said, I reviewed Kylix code for an audit, and it did not look like somebody the team looked so professional. It didn't look like it's their first project, which was really good. I mean, I felt very good about the way he said it as well, because it looks not only that we are professionals, we're building it, but from somebody who's doing the audit on your code, it looks really nice. So I wanted to share my bullish sentiment on Kylix Finance.
Yeah, no, actually, it was very nice of him. At the end, our project it's audited and by several people, and we are asking a code review from especially also we are getting very nice feedbacks from Decentralized Future. At the end, it was pretty. Pleasant comment from them. I'm really thankful, and we're putting a lot of effort in the quality of our code. The end, it's probably even if it's our first substrate project. But we have a lot of a year of experience in software development, and we are in the blockchain space since many years. So. I'm happy actually we received this comment, because we are always working to make our project better and better, and to make it as most robust and strong as possible. At the end, it's a DeFi project, and here there is no margin for errors.
Yeah,
guys, we're running out of time quickly. This has been super interesting, and I love that we've got some mega smart people here. I guess just what we want to do is throw an opportunity to anyone in the comments to ask any last questions of anyone here, whether it's about StellarSwap, Kylix, Mandala, take your pick. And then after, if we don't have any other comments or questions, we might just sort of throw around to everybody here and just sort of say what's coming up next, and then give a shout out to where people can find you on your socials, what they can follow, how they can join your community. So maybe while we do that, and while we wait to see if there's any questions that just pop up here in the chat, I'll start. So firstly, you can follow along Mandala, like mandalachain.io, Mandala Chain on X. So you can come and join the Telegram or the Discord there from Mandala Chain. The TGE and the chain going live on mainnet is imminent. It's very, very close. And also, for those who are unaware, my company is one of the main founding companies of Mandala Chain. There's 3 companies that have helped to found Mandala. So my company, Republic Labs, we're a research and incubation hub. So you can also follow us on X at Republic Labs, on YouTube, on Republic Labs, Republic with a K. And so you can follow us along. We produce a huge amount of research and content all the time. We're blockchain agnostic, so we don't just cover one particular ecosystem, but we cover every ecosystem that talks about blockchain. So that's how you can find me. Maybe Aziz, you want to give us a shout out for everything StellarSwap?
Yeah, sure. We're constantly we're very active in our socials, especially on Twitter. So, and obviously for deeper conversations, or if you have any issues or any feedback or any suggestions, please join our Discord, where you can actively talk with not only our community members, but also the core team as well. So do follow us on Twitter at StellarSwap, very straightforward, so that you can get to know more updates. We're very, very active there, and we'll interact with you guys with memes and any other product announcements or stuff which are very important, especially towards the ecosystem, right? So just join us on our socials, and we hope to interact with the community a lot more.
Yeah, I follow StellarSwap on X, and I quite like the content sometimes. It's quite funny. It's not like I don't like the content that's always just boring, throwing information, and there's not really any kind of engagement to it. So I quite like the way you guys approach the community. It's good. Community always feels like they're being listened to. They're talking to a friend, or they're talking to somebody on their level, rather than somebody corporate who doesn't really care what community thinks. So yeah, I quite like that. Thanks. For Kylix, our website is kylix.finance, and our Twitter page is Kylix Finance, all one word. You guys can join our Telegram and Discord. We're quite active in our social media as well, just same as StellarSwap. I think we should start doing more memes like StellarSwap as well. But yeah,
let's do it, man.
Yeah, we should have a meme war. Yeah, that's what we should have. Actually, tell you what, tomorrow I'll tag StellarSwap. I'll find a meme for you guys.
Let's do a meme coin first.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I enjoyed this chat today.
Yeah, very much. Actually, our TG also is coming next month, so please follow us, because we are going also to already give you opportunity to some users to try our product in upfront. So please follow us on, like Pacman said, the social media and on our website on kylix.finance.
Yeah. Thanks very much, guys, and looking forward
to pleasure.
Thanks, Aziz.
Thank you.
Awesome, everyone. Just to remember, same time, same place next week on X and YouTube. So we'll have more guests on next week, so follow along. Maybe we could call this the Wednesday Hump Day or something like that. We'll come up with a name still. We're still looking for the name, but every Wednesday, same time, same place. Come follow along. And yeah.